Neal Creek has gone from a complex, dynamic creek in its natural state to an entrenched, confined creek without any real habitat that's important for salmon and steelhead species. That's largely a function of development over time. So the creation of county and private roads right along the creek that have kind of confined the creek, filling for development that's happened right along the creek, and even agriculture, which is king here in our valley, but has filled in riparian areas, have come up right to the creek, and that has waterfall of impacts over time.
Back in the day, prior to the forest practices rules, there just weren't many protections, and people weren't thinking about it in terms of the damage it was causing because they hadn't seen the damage in total yet.
Our goal coming into this project and the previous phases on Neal Creek is to help tee up a restoration and let the creek restore itself with the pieces that we put in place. And so by adding wood into the creek itself, we help slow down water, we help reconnect it to its floodplain, we help recharge groundwater, we help with that slowing of water. More gravels are dropping out, which are needed for salmon and steelhead for their spawning grounds. We're also creating cover for juveniles. Just the act of putting water in the stream has a cascading effect over habitat and hydrology, and how the stream functions in and of itself.
It's an important stream for the Hood River because it's a natural steelhead bearing stream. Steelhead come here to spawn, and they're real important for the Hood River because we didn't plant them here. They are here on their own.
This creek is also important because it's one of the lowest clear water streams that fish reach as they're returning to our watershed up the main stem. Neal Creek is one of the first sort of left turns that they can make up into a tributary, and this is an important one as it is clear and cold.
For here, for the Northwest, for the treaty tribes, the 4 tribes, salmon is our main sustenance for our livelihood. Whenever you have a cultural dinner or any kind of doing, fish is the first food on the table, and it's just our livelihood from being. We've fished here forever.
This is the longest contiguous project that the Watershed Group has done, so about 2 miles of restoration. Phase 3 is more than double the size of the previous individual projects. In the previous projects, we were putting in something like 60 to 100 pieces of large wood. This project has almost 685 pieces of wood. And we were able to cover that much ground because a large portion of it was implemented by way of helicopter. We can do all that work, which with a machine would be a very daunting long project, and would have a much bigger impact on the riparian community. We were able to do that work with a helicopter in 2.5, 3 days.
Getting large wood into streams and channels is very important because it provides that roughness and diversity within that channel in terms of different currents and pools, and just so many factors that help with the habitat for fish. And to do it this way, it speeds up that process. You might have to wait 100, 200 years for that size of wood to grow itself back into those zones, and then die and then fall over. So it takes centuries really to reinitiate that on its own. By doing a project like this, we get to see those benefits within months and years instead of waiting centuries.
It's a team effort here on these projects.
Not one entity can do it by themselves, and that's the really big thing about Hood River Watershed Group.
Clearly our core partner is the tribes. The tribes provide project support, funding. They provided logs, cut logs for this project. And then we have the landowner, the county forestry program.
It takes planning. It takes, people that are really good at this kind of stuff to be able to come together and drop those plans. You've got to get your funding in place. And then you may not be able to do the projects all at once. You do them in phases and steps. and each time adds something back.
Different people see things in a different point of view, so you don't get just one point of view. I think is really neat that everybody brings something to the table.
We don't design and implement these projects ourselves, and it wouldn't be possible without the design team, the engineering team, the development team, the permitting, and then the on-the-ground implementation. The equipment operators, their foremen, the whole crew really did an incredible job, and just a lot of fun to work with every day.
You know, it took all those parties coming together to work on that, and I think that's what made the project go a lot smoother in the end.
The physical benefits are already very clear. We have a significantly larger amount of slow water, sort of refuge water for salmon and steelhead. We've dug pools, just the addition of large wood, that's just sort of immediate habitat right away. Looking out here and seeing fish jumping in this monstrous pool, that nothing like this exists on Neal Creek anymore, and to have been able to put this in, create this feature, and see that response right away feels like we're having the desired impact. But for me, you know, the most telling results are hearing from landowners who have lived here for their whole lives, who have, after we've done these projects, who call me up in the winter and say, there are coho swimming up my stream that I haven't seen in 20 years. And that's not necessarily the scientific data that we're looking for as a measure of success on these projects, but to me that's one of the best measures of success, just personally. The next step in this project would be to replant and then maintain that replanting over time.
Establishing native trees and shrubs and that kind of thing is very important as part of the project, and that's kind of the final kind of window dressing that you put on, and so that it becomes more sustainable into the future. And even though it takes a long time, there are some benefits even in the short term that occur. The shading and the nutrient inputs and things like that, and reducing the erosive ability of the stream by providing more stability to the banks and slopes. It does feel really good just to see it all come full circle, feel like you got something completed, and in a state that it probably will support itself from here on out. It will change. These things are dynamic. They're not static, but I really feel like it's set up now to function long term, to be sustainable.
I think in 5 years from now, in 10 years from now, over time, just seeing how the creek restores itself from the pieces that we've put in place here, I think that'll be just a fascinating process.